for week 2 of AHLPSN this week. Hi, everyone. T-Sibs with you. We got Advance, and we have DeGraves here with you today. We may hear from 6'9" a little later. Matty Lucci is out on assignment. And we're going to hear from a new member who's going to start to talk to us about polls this week. We're going to try and have a weekly poll where we quote a question to you guys, give you a chance to vote on it, and get your opinion out there. So, plenty to talk about after week number 2, and let's get right to it. We certainly saw a lot of movement this week. I think the first thing to even talk about is, let's talk about what actually happened as far as, movement of players, lots of trades going on. And we talked a little bit about this last week, guys, and what typically goes on in the first couple of weeks. And, we know there's going to be a lot of trades. The question is how warranted is some of this stuff? And again, we saw a lot of movement from a lot of teams. Certainly, DeGraves, you were busy with your team making some moves. I guess it really doesn't necessarily matter how successful your team is. If you feel like, you can improve your overall roster, it certainly makes sense to do that. There could be other pending reasons as to why you might want to move players after 2 weeks. And I guess every team has a different reason for why they do what they do.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know the insides of what's going on behind the scenes. For me, I was having a real tough time winning games with my third line. So really, all my came down to revamping the third line, trying to get some power guys in there. I got sent down to center, so I saw people were in need of centers in the league, and so I took advantage of it to kind of revamp that third line. Went out and got B. Schmitty. He's came in practice with us, and so some teams just they come out 6-3 on the week or 5-4, and that seems pretty solid. But those extra 2 games that could have been won by, let's say, your third line. I mean, you got to make that move to where that line's getting two wins out of 3. I mean, that's a big deal moving forward, and it all adds up. So that's really my objective right now, and I think we got that nipped in the butt. So I think you just see some other teams kind of doing what I'm doing, just trying to make those final roster moves, and then obviously the teams that aren't performing so well, they're calling out for desperate times. So you got to kind of take advantage of the good players on the bad teams, or not so successful teams, and kind of go after them and see what you can get.
Advance, what is the typical mindset of management? What's going on, at least with the Senators after 2 weeks? Obviously you're a team that had a successful week 1, and week 2 is a little bit on the downside. You guys, yeah. Well, I'm trying to be nice about it. Are you guys looking to make moves? What's the mindset right now?
Well, when you go 7-2. And the next week you basically go 2-7. You go, oh, well, you know what? Now we're playing the top lines of teams, and we realize that maybe some of the guys can't hold up, or we just need to build different lines or better lines. We have been making a ton of trades. We've been trading all over the place. We're like a crazy trading team, like the stock market out here. We're just trying to see what we can do, change things up. We're changing up our lines a little bit. See how different people work with different things. We had one of our good guys called up, so we had to bring, some people came down. It's been a lot of that, and we're just trying to figure it out. But there's a lot of different trades that are going on. You can tell within the actual season, or within the different teams. Like if you look, there's different. It's funny because you see different level of teams doing different types of stuff. So you'll see Providence and the Checkers, who are both very struggling. They're actually trading with each other. So that's, basically just trading shitters with shitters, which is always a fun time to watch. You see the Heat, and they're trading with the Checkers. It's more of that. People are just trying to find some chemistry. Maybe there's a buddy that oh, I've played that with that guy before and we actually do okay. Okay, so maybe we'll move some of these guys and they're on a bad team too, so they're struggling. So we'll just trade them and maybe some chemistry will be what helps more than anything else.
Right.
So I think you're seeing that a lot. And if you look down the list, it's mostly struggling teams that are doing the trades. There are some other ones, but for the most part, it's struggling teams.
I mean, and I can speak for those managements out. I kind of went through that last season when I traded 5 of my players to the Phantoms or to the Monsters for 5 of their players. I mean, it's just kind of, you got to kind of just switch things up because obviously what's happening isn't working. So, like Advance was saying, that's what's kind of happening out there is they're reaching out to the other, not so good teams trying to figure out some sort of way to make that roster connection. And, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. My whole first line's basically gone. The whole French line is all but nothing. Toasty's gone. I think Corbs is gone. Perfect Skills is gone. So we're revamping, man. We're chopping her down and restarting basically with more cap now.
Well, there, what we're going to talk about too when we start talking about the teams specifically, we're going to talk about 1 and 2 who have made a bunch of moves, who have had successful weeks 1 and 2. The Wild, we're going to talk about in a little bit. They made several moves this week, and we're going to talk a little bit about what they did and why they did it. But I think it's I think you hit the nail on the head, DeGraves. I think it's a matter of even if you're successful, if you've got opportunities and you can make a couple of moves to finalize a team, not a bad idea to do it now. You might be able to get somebody who's had a couple of weeks of struggling maybe on a team that's a 500 team, and you can pick them up, and they're going to produce with your team. It's certainly worth it. That's probably a big reason why most teams do it right now. I always just fear about a team and a manager who is not knowledgeable, who sees a team struggle in week 1, even week 2, and wants to shake things up just because. And they may have the parts on their team, and it just may take a week or 2 before, and we've said this in the past, it could take the first 3 weeks before chemistry really builds, and maybe they wind up trading away players who will come around. And I kind of feel like the veteran managers understand that, and they're the ones who will take that chance and wait for somebody who is a solid player to come around after a week or 2. And maybe it's the managers who don't have a lot of experience with it who panic and make that move and wind up giving a valuable piece to a team who, find themselves picking up a player who really puts them over the top.
But Sibs, how long do you wait? This is kind of goes back to last week.
Right.
How long do I wait? Let's say I go 1 and 8 week. I'm almost 20 points behind the 4th team. I mean, how long do you wait? It's kind of you just got to fill out your players, kind of, and see who are what I kind of do is see who are the ones that, that are committed to playing LG and they'll stick through it and want to play. It's all about, almost by that time, it's about, all right, here, I'm going to try to do what I can do to revamp this team. Mm-hmm. I'm going to try what I can do to slowly creep back up in the standings. And potentially, hopefully, maybe, make the playoffs. But you don't know when the right time to do it. I didn't want to trade Bacon Blitz, okay? Unfortunately for him, he was on the 3rd line with the forwards. Well, his record and stuff doesn't show for it. But I know that his talent is better than what he shows for. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, how long do you wait? I can't wait another week and hope that, he's valuable after 3 weeks with the 1 and 8 record. I can't hope for that. So, I moved him, got him some new scenery. We talked about it. Him and Buffalo talked about it. I mean, it's kind of like just you don't really know unless you just feel it. I don't know, man. It's as being and managing, you kind of go with the gut feeling. It's kind of like, oh, whatever. I need to do something about this,
Well,
I think that's a good point. So I think that's a good point. It's very personal to who it actually is. And I do think some experience does play into that. But at the same time, if you're the type of person that goes to a grocery store and you see the stupid shit at the cashier, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna get that, I'm gonna get that. You're more likely to be the type of person who, after 1 week or 2 weeks, if they're not doing it, you're like, I'm moving them. Whereas I'm the type, I'm not like that. I like to wait things out and see how shit goes. So I don't particularly like moving players right away, especially if I know they're good players. Maybe they're trying to find their chemistry a bit.
Yeah.
But sometimes certain GMs are, and so you just kind of have to work with it.
Well, and we've been in the league for so long, Advance. You know, a lot of the management has, or players have. We know who is talented and who has skill and who doesn't. When a good defender on my team, it's almost like, man, I can't really get rid of this good guy. Like, I know he's good. What is going on here? How can I fix that around him?
Right.
Or now, okay, that's not working. Now I gotta move him to fix that. So you kind of gotta weigh your options, man.
It's a hard one, man. It's a hard one because we're used to. I don't know about you, but this is the first time I was managing. So I'm used to just looking at my team like, yeah, look at this, what it looks like, and like, oh, when shit's going bad, these managers suck. But now I'm the manager. I'm like, oh no, like this is like a little baby where like you kind of helped build this, and now you're seeing how it works, looking from the top down. Like, oh my god, it's just it's tough. It's tough when you see guys that you know are good and they're just either not performing. You go, man, I really thought that would work. So it's a different perspective. It really is.
Kind of like 925er. You know, he told me, hey, or he said in our team chat, I'm 0-6 this week in Xbox and AHL on PSN, and I was like, oh man, this might be my for me to just trade him just to get him a new look. Maybe it'll like change his mojo.
A little late now.
That's what I did, but it's worked out. No. You know, it's not that it's gone bad, but maybe he's doing well. I don't know. I haven't even checked in on him. But it wasn't a hard feeling for him. I know he's a good player, you know, so it's I don't know. I go everyone goes through streaks on this dang game, so it's I'll play like crap for 3 weeks and then all of a sudden I'm the god. So I'm the god of LG or of NHL.
Just to go, it's one of the things that you said, just to finish out the thought there. You know, another reason too, maybe to get one of someone who's known as a good player who's struggling in the first week or two. The longer you wait, the less valuable they become in a trade, right? So that's another reason, I guess, why maybe you take the time and you say, okay, I don't know if they're going to turn around. They might, but now I can get a decent price for them, where in week 4, week 5, I might not.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can't tell you how many times Buffalo and I went back and forth. Man, let's hold off on Bacon. I'm just sitting there like, man, what if, man? I mean, he has another bad week, and his trade value is horrible. I mean, we're getting nothing for it. So, we just had to pull the trigger on Bacon, and it is what it is. No hard feelings, and we talked to Bacon about it. So it's just I think that's the beauty of this game, is kind of stuff like that makes it interesting. Because if it wasn't stuff like that, then this game would just be boring, and everyone would be the same skill all day, every time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I go back.
That goes for any sport. People have hot streaks, people have cold streaks. And so it is what it is.
The trade value is hard in this one, because it's true that if you're not playing well, someone looks at him and goes, "Oh, I don't know. Oh man, he's not doing very well." But the bigger names, even if they're not doing very well, someone's like, "Oh yeah, but like I know this guy. Like I know he can do it."
Right.
So it kind of depends on what the player is too. Just reputation, man. Reputation kind of goes a bit away in this league. So that does help. But all like the Xbox guys that no one knows, like
that guy's annoying. I don't even want.
Right, cancers, stuff like that. Just,
that stuff goes on in my head too. Yeah, he might be really good. He has a big ego. I don't have time to deal with that stuff in my chat. Like, whatever, I'll just leave that go. I mean, that is repetition, I mean, reputation is a big thing in here. So, true as well.
And just one note, got a message from Yansanity, and of course he says 3 wins in 2 weeks is long enough to wait. And so, obviously to him it's been time, I guess, to start making moves. So,
well, if you're a bottom of the team, bottom of the of the stat lines and the standings, then yeah, because there's just you're at the bottom. You got to do something. If you only have 3 wins, you're in trouble. And there's 3 teams that have three wins. The next closest one's 5. So there are still some struggling teams, but you know, 3 is not a lot.
Yeah, I if I had 3 wins, I would be in major panic mode right now.
Yep.
Honestly, I might be tossing my hands up and just say, hey, you know what? Let's just go. Like, hey, let's sign up. We'll play. Like, honestly, I mean, you got a lot to improve right there. I mean, you got to turn around 2 lines or 3 lines of 1. You know, I mean, that's what it sounds like to me when you've only won 3 games out of 2 weeks.
And
you know,
I just gotta say, let's.
I'm not trying to be harsh, but
No, that's cool. Let's look at the Western Pacific and just look at the standings right now. They, you mentioned Stockton there at the bottom, 11 losses in a row now at 3-13. They're 20 points already, as you said, behind Bakersfield, who's on top now, 13-3-2. San Jose has been playing well. They are right up there as well. Ontario tied with 26 points to San Jose. Texas there at 21. San Antonio at 20. Even Tucson at 18, 10 points behind. San Diego, it's going to take a nice uphill climb for them, but, they still have an opportunity. But really the first 4 or 5 teams in your league are pretty strong. You see San Antonio on a 5-game win streak. They've been playing well. So, you've got some good competition there. And, again, for a team like Stockton, it's going to be tough for them to come back. But, you guys are so tight. And, again, that lends to the idea of trading, it's going to be a tough race. 5 or 6 teams are going to be in it. Maybe now is the time to make those moves. And you've made a few. I want to just get your feeling on it, DeGrave. Just talk a little bit about these teams that you're up against because, Bakersfield, starting to play, I think played better week 2 than week 1 overall. They were ranked 5 in team rankings this week for the power rankings. And San Jose, who we'll talk about a little later, also playing incredibly good hockey right now.
Yeah, I mean, Bakersfield, they're 9-1 in their last 10 games, which is pretty impressive. I mean, I was actually looking at their roster the other day, and they got some good talent on their team, and I think they're not crazy talent, but I think it comes back to that chemistry deal. Mm-hmm. They got a lot of guys that are pretty active. It looks like I know quite a bit of these dudes, and I think they have just a lot of chemistry together. We face them tonight, so that'll be interesting to see. Looks like they're bringing out a good line tonight. So, they got Gremlin. Dirty Deeds has been, having a pretty good start to the season, starting at a 5-0-1 record, 14 points. I mean, he's sitting solid. So they're doing well. They got a lot of talent there and a lot of chemistry, it seems like. So, I'm not actually surprised that they're at top. So, and kind of going back to what you were saying about the trades is, as I see San Antonio, the Rampage, they're making trades as well, along with, Ontario, and Cuda. Mm-hmm. For my feeling as the Texas Stars, we kind of been sitting in that middle spot, and coming to find out why was just because of our third line. Our first 2 lines, I don't think we've allowed over 2-3 goals in a game. We're winning games, we're solid, and so we have to find what it takes to get to that 1 and 2 spot. Hopefully that 1 spot, like Bakersfield, and that's what teams are trying to do. And Bakersfield, they're coming out hot. And Tuscan Roadrunners, we played them. They're a pretty good team. They got a lot of talent on that team as well. Rampage as well. They got a lot of talent. Yeah, this is a tough division. We play them this week, so we're going to find out what it's all about.
Yeah, we're going to find out how how tough the Western Pacific is again. For whatever reason, that division always winds up being tough. And again, if you're in the top 6, you you're within striking distance, but it's always it's always seems to be a struggle out there. Let's move over to the Western Central, and right now Manitoba still on top, a 5-game winning streak. They're 15-2-1. They are still they went 7-1-1 in week 2. Bobby Goggles 3-0, 4 goals, 8 assists, a +15. Rocky Grat 2-0-1, 6 goals, 6 assists, a +8. And Dr. Nasty 6-0 this week, a 1.06 goals against, 88 save percentage, and 3 shutouts. And again, the Moose just keep on moving forward. And, I guess we saw this with San Jose last year, but, this just seems to be, again, a well put together team with a lot of veterans. And we talked about it last week. They still keep producing. And when you get a guy who's been a leader like Bobby Goggles, who, I played for the Bears in season 4. He's a good leader on and off the ice. He's not even a manager this year, but to have somebody like that on your team, advanced, that not part of your management but can be a leader, that's another extra bonus. He also puts out, offensively. I just think they've got so many good weapons on this team and so many good leaders as well.
Yeah, the Moose are a good team this year. They were good last year. They're good this year. They still have some core players from the last season, and they do have players like Bobby Goggles as well. Which you're talking about like, oh, he's got to be good. He's $6 million contract. He better be freaking good. You know what I'm saying?
I gotcha.
So that you have to look at that too. Like, but he's absolutely going to make a big difference for their team. And then I like what the Moose are doing. I liked last season, even though I thought the Cougar were going to win it. The Moose just seemed to have more depth, have stronger second and third lines, which really did pull it out. So there's a couple of teams like that. I think Bakersfield is the same way. They actually have some depth to them. The Minnesota Wild actually has some depth to them this year, and they're a team that hasn't. I remember season 4. They were a good team season 4. And I don't really remember if they were as good in the last couple, but Agger's the owner for that whole team, and they're doing pretty good. You got to give credit to the GM, Tommy and Beast forever. They've built a good team. You can't really complain about it.
Yeah, let's talk about Iowa. 8-1 in week 2. They are couple of points back on the Moose. Just moved 4 of their players in a trade this week, where they moved out Rockpile, who was tied for 12th in points. Few Cam with 5-1 record, 7 goals, 6 assists, a +10. Billy cleared TC on the 24th of February. He went 2-1 this past week, 5 goals, 6 assists, a +7. And Outstanding Skills, who was acquired from the Comets on February 24th. He also went 2-1, 5-5, and a +7. Again, you see these guys do well, but you wonder why they're traded. And I was able to get Beast and talk to him a little bit today. He was busy during the show, so I wasn't able to get him on here live, but I talked to him this morning. And basically, he said, so far we've been off to a good start. I believe it's due to a strong core group of players we kept around. I saw some moves this week because they had some locker room issues. If you know me, he said, if you know me and Tommy, we don't put up with any nonsense. We have that Bill Belichick mentality where you can be the best player, but once you start shit with your team, you're packing your things. He said, so we went out, made some moves we felt can help this team be even better than we were before, both defensively and offensively. So that's a quote from Beast. And basically, something else, and I kept on talking to Beast, and he said, look, you never know how these moves are gonna work, and you never know how the team's going to react. But within the first day or two, the team hadn't really been practicing, hadn't really been talking much to each other. After these moves were made, they've been practicing. They've talked to each other. The atmosphere is a lot better, according to Beast, and it seems like his team feels more comfortable from the moves that were made. And again, you talked about this. There are different reasons why you make moves in week 2. I think the Wild found a reason that was a chemistry reason, and to me, that's usually another one of the big reasons why you make moves this early.
Yeah, if you can find people that actually play together, not just during the games, that's pretty big. I know with our first line, we built a French line. We're like, oh, these guys are going to play together and they're going to be really good. And I don't think they really played together. I maybe once or twice I remember, but it was just you see one person like, hey, do you want to play? And then no one else really responds. So they got moved because of that. I know Fufu was he was on the trade block for a little bit. My team was looking at him too for a bit, but ended up not going for him. So you kind of know which players might be the problem. Once I start, because I didn't know that they were having locker room trouble. I guess that's something that you kind of got a little exclusive on. But I knew like the second half of it. I knew kind of which players, but I didn't know why.
Right.
So it's interesting to now hear that, and then you have to think to yourself, oh, did I maybe get lucky and not pick up a guy that maybe was causing some problems in the locker room? You never know, or maybe they would just do well in a different locker room. So it changes depending on who it is and
right.
and what team it is and how strict you run your team. My team is not the strictest of teams. We joke around a lot and we just chirp each other a lot, which is a great time. But we're never like, it's hard to tell who's really bad or who isn't when it comes to locker room if we've built our team on chirping.
Right.
So that's a bit tough, but we like it. It's fun.
We'll move along with Chicago. The Wolves are in third place, and they went 7-2 this past week. Tender Sticks going 3-0, 9 goals, 6 assists, a +11. Mista Don, you can always expect good numbers out of him. He's also went 3-0 this week. 8 goals, 5 assists, a +11 as well. So Chicago, doing incredibly well this week. And right behind them, one of the hottest teams in the league, the Milwaukee Admirals. They went 7-2 this past week. As you see, they are tied with 26 points, tied for third place. And a couple of players, Tactical Swim, 2-1 this week, 4 goals, 9 assists. It's game time, 3-0, 6 goals, 6 assists, a +9. So the Admirals certainly have talent. We know they've got some scorers who are going to be, going to put up their numbers this season. And again, you got a bit of a logjam up there. The top 4 teams are 5-point difference within each other, and that's with the Moose being on a 5-game winning streak. So, again, you got a division here. The Ice Hogs and the Monsters, 19 points. They're not that far behind. And again, I expected more out of Colorado, but it just hasn't quite happened for them yet. And Grand Rapids as well. They're not bad teams. It just they're in a tough division, and they just haven't found their stride yet.
Yeah, and I actually kind of like I like the look of the Admirals team. They're a pretty solid team. They're playing well together, and their GM, who's playing very very well as a goalie, he has some really good stats going on, and they're a team that I'm gonna keep my eye on now more than some other ones. I was watching the Heat last week, but that was kind of a waste of time. So now I'm going to take a more of a middle of the pack kind of team and watch what they're doing. But 13 wins, 5 losses is nothing to throw around about. That's a good team.
And the Braves, you're going to wind up seeing these guys in the Western Central a lot. You have enough trouble in your own division, then you're going to wind up having to play these guys, and that's never a break. You guys don't get a break having to play the other Western Conference, the other Western Division.
Yeah, I mean, we had some pretty tough games this last week. I mean, Sibs, you participated in the one against us. That was a pretty tight game. I mean, those were some pretty good battles going out there. I think our non-toughest one was against the Crunch. We put a stomping on them. So, I mean, really, y'all's, y'all got the Senators and stuff like that. I mean, having the Moose and Wild and Chicago and Admirals, and when we play them, that those are going to be some deadly games. I watched the Wild versus the who was that the other night? Springfield. Man, that game was intense. You know, those are some good defensive teams. I was pretty surprised by some of the trades that they made this week. Wild made some pretty big trades, but you know, like chemistry and stuff like that, and chirping, and you know, just bad mouthing the team. It kind of goes a far way. So, kind of interested to see how when we go up against some Moose in the Wild this week, how it all folds out, and you know, so I know I'm playing up against some of the tougher lines this week, so we'll see how it works out. I think this might be one of the hardest weeks that we have this season. Looking at it, so I don't know. We'll see, Sibs.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough week, I think, for a lot of teams. As we look at the Eastern North and Toronto on top right now, we're going to be. I mean,
even with those divisions, Sibs, y'all's division is pretty tough as well.
Right.
We had some tough games this week. I mean,
yeah.
So.
Yep.
It's all pretty tough. There's no easy division. I don't think at all.
Right.
It's pretty level, talented players. So.
As we head over to the East and North, Toronto in first place over there, and Toronto's got Binghamton and Rochester tonight in back-to-back games, playing the second and third place teams. So not an easy way to start the week. It's certainly going to be another tough week as you're in division. So the Marlies on top, as you see, by 4 points over Binghamton, 5 over Rochester. Syracuse, they're not too far behind. They've made some moves, but they're on a 3-game losing streak. Belleville struggling a little bit, but again, still not too far behind in points, and only 9 back of Toronto. And at this early stage, it's certainly makeable. Laval and Utica round out the rest of the division. And you know, in the Eastern North, the Marlies going 5-2-2 this past week. The Americans 6-2-1. The Devils 5-3-1. So. You know, these teams are sticking by Toronto. Syracuse, meanwhile, making 6 trades this week, and one of them a big one with the Wild, where several players were moved in that one, and so Syracuse trying to make some moves that will, you know, hopefully, I guess, bring some different chemistry to the team, and maybe build on something for them, but. Again, you know, trying to do anything at this point to keep up with what's going on in the top 3 teams. That's certainly what Syracuse, I think, is attempting to do. Meanwhile, Advance, they're going to give you a minute or two to talk a little bit about Belleville. And, you know, I questioned a little bit last week, although I think I was attacked for it, about your top line doing well, but not playing great teams necessarily in week 1. And I don't know if that's the case what happened this past week, but you know, you guys struggled 2-6-1 in week 2. What are some of the basic things you think you guys have to work on coming into week 3?
First off, who attacked you? I want their names and social insurance numbers.
Well, you know who it is.
Yeah. No, we played a lot of top lines. Like the first week we didn't really play. We played some good teams with their top lines, not so much, maybe 1 or 2. But this week was just a shit show of top lines, and that possibly could be my fault for talking on this show about how we're fucking awesome. So that kind of hurt us.
Everybody talks about that, even in the show.
Yeah, I know.
So you can't be guilty of that.
I know, but so yeah, we kind of struggled. We struggled a bit. We've moved a lot of people around. We've got a couple of people that came down from the NHL, Icon, and Go Canucks, and we picked up a couple of people. We got DJs. We've made a lot of trades actually. So it's going to be. I'm interested to see what this. I can't say anything yet because I don't. You have to wait till the next week, till next show to know what's going on. But all I can say about last week is we got shit on. We had a couple of games where we had the lead and couldn't hold it. Our defense kind of struggled. We got some new defensemen as well. We got goal scorer and we got Erickson. We got rid of Cabbage, who I really liked. I liked Cabbage a lot.
Right.
Shout out to that guy. We brought Pope up. So we're just changing things around a bit. We're seeing how things will work out, and I can give you the next week, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all I can really do.
And we'll move on to the Eastern Atlantic and talk a little bit about what's going on there. Springfield on top with 23 points, and Hershey there in second with 20. Lehigh Valley right behind them with 19. A lot of these teams not necessarily having big weeks at all. It was Hartford going 6-3 against and with some good wins in this past week. So it was. I want to say, and I got to look back at their record, but I believe they beat Manitoba at one point this week. They had a couple of good wins. Their opponents had a 92, 59, and 11 combined record. So they played teams who are well above 500 and played well against them. But the key about this division, guys, is that the Eastern Atlantic is still bunched up. It's a bit of a car wreck right now, and it's anybody's for the taking. And in the top 6 easily, including Hartford, they're 8 points back with a game in hand on Springfield. And, Charlotte and Providence are the two teams who have really tanked the past couple of weeks. But everybody else is in this race. And it's, again, it's only week 2, so you kind of expect that. But nobody's really pulling away in this division or making some great win streak in the first couple of weeks.
No, and they're my favorite. They're my favorite division to watch these days because they are so close. And shout out to Sieg for the Wolfpack. She's they're actually keeping it together. But if you do look at some of their stats, their goals for versus goals against, it was only 5. It was +5, which it's decent, but it means your games are close. And their time on attack was -245. So they're not. I can't say they're dominating games, right? But they're getting it done. They are getting it done. Their penalty killing 75%. Power play is pretty not great at 19%, but they need to do what they're doing, and their actual shots are better. They're 33 shots more than what's getting taken on them. So they're moving. They're moving up the ranks. I just don't know how long it's going to last. That's all. I hope for the best, but I don't know how long it's going to last.
Yeah, I think Hartford, they, for how they started week 1, they bounced back for sure. And luckily, the division is pretty close. So, it gives them a lot of hope and a lot of, good feeling that they can make a march and potentially, make their way up to 1 and 2 in the division. I mean, it's real close. That's actually a fun division just to watch as it progresses in the year or in the season goes on, just to see how it switches every week. Because I know it's going to switch 2 or 3 teams every week. It's that kind of division. So it'll be fun to watch that. So, the Phantoms, they made a lot of moves in the past couple of weeks as well. And for the amount of moves that they made, they should be pretty happy being in the 3 spot. They got rid of a really good goalie, Red Raider. He did happen to rage quit a game. That's all right. So, there's a lot of talent in that division, and there's a lot of good teams. It's just who's fighting for those top 4 spots over there. I mean, the Wolfpack they made a statement, so let's see if they can climb up a couple more spots.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick correction here. I said Sieg, but that was the wrong team. It's Gauchi and Intro and Candy Beans that are the manager on that team, and they're doing very well.
Well, Siege is the GM of Hartford.
Of Hartford.
Yeah. Okay.
Did she change her name? Is that why she tripped me out?
Did she change her name? I don't think she did.
It says Candy Beans is GM. That's why it's tripping me out right now.
Oh, that's weird. You sure you're looking at the right league? we'll
no.
get back to that later.
Hold on. I'm terrible at technology. Give me a second here.
We've already established that you're horrible with technology.
No, man. I'm looking at the right one.
It's like talking
See,
to my
if you
parents.
change your name, don't be embarrassed of yourself. We liked your name.
Okay. Hey, again, a lot of trades this week, and I want to talk a little bit about who you thought were the big winners if you think anyone was a big winner this week in the moves that they made. I kind of, again, the Wild gave up a lot of players this week, moved a lot of guys around, but I think for the reason that they did it, I kind of like the fact that they did that because they're trying to make chemistry better. I think sometimes we get owners or we get GMs who will take players on who don't care about chemistry, who don't, all they know is, look, I know this guy, I see the numbers, always puts up great numbers, and then that player gets on that team and they absolutely ruin what went on. I think we saw that when we go back to Cleveland in season 4. We know that they brought some guys down and it absolutely screwed up their chemistry.
It did.
And so I think that's like the classic example of what could happen if you don't take team chemistry into mind. So for that reason, I kind of like what the Wild did, if that's what they did. And look, you might as well do that now and give those players who may not fit in with your team, but may fit in perfectly well elsewhere, give them a chance to be somewhere else. Plus, the Wild wind up moving guys who have been successful, who've put up good numbers, and they got good trade value back for it.
Yeah, that's gonna be a test of time kind of thing. Though we'll see how that actually works out for them in the upcoming weeks. But it's if you can move guys that are causing problems in your own little team, and it'll legitimately make your team better just chemistry wise, then that chemistry goes a long way in this game that people don't really realize. You can take on a much better line if you're used to the guys you're playing with, or girls, and you have set plays that the other team's just not ready for. So you got to take that into consideration when you're trading people. If you know these people, you know which people go well with other people. Sometimes even if they have worse stats, you got to do it just because it'll benefit you in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, chemistry and attitude.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's some attitudes out there that, I've had guys on my team and I just hear them on the mic just talking and, criticize what others do. And it gets to that point where you just don't want to listen,
Yeah.
Right.
And neither do any of your teammates. And then they start arguing stuff. So, I mean, you got to just do it. You gotta lay your foot down and say, you know what, whatever. You might be all good and stuff, but is it really worth it? Is it really worth it? I mean, it becomes a headache after a while, especially as a manager for a team. It gets old to having to deal with it constantly. So, gotta nip it in the butt as soon as possible and let others get chemistry with the new teammates coming in. But it is what it is. You got to do it. You want a fun atmosphere for your team, not hatred and boring and stuff. I try to keep my guys active all the time, so make it fun for them. So it is what it is. The Wild made some trades. Let's see if it works out for them. If not, maybe we'll see them at the bottom of the standings into this week. You never know.
Yeah. What I like about the Eastern Atlantic also is that you can go like the Hershey Bears. You can go, I think it was 5-3. I think that was right. It was 5-3 or 5-4, and you're still like the top of your division or close to it. So I do like that about that specific division. And aside from Providence and the Checkers, who were just falling down a hill, the rest of them will be fun to watch.
Yeah, I feel like the Eastern Atlantic is a division lose and still be in that number like 4 and 5 spot within a point.
Yeah.
I feel like if my team was to lose 3 in a row in my division, I would drop down like, it would really hurt my team. I would either drop down a couple innings or like drop 7 points out of to getting in second or third place. Like it would just affect me because that team or the other team surrounding me won 2 in a row or won 3 in a row. So it's kind of like, but that division, you have a little leeway to kind of mess up.
Yeah, the wiggle room.
You got a little wiggle room.
Sure. Okay, let's move on to some of the player stats, and we'll take a look at the power rankings that came out yesterday, the who's hot in forward and who's hot in defense up on your screen right now. And if you notice, in both columns, in both categories, there's somebody from Hartford at top. Hockey Man, who is the top ranked player right now in week 2, 3-0, 6 goals, 8 assists, a +8, and towards the bottom of the list, you see Intro and Blood Demon, also from Hartford, who also had good numbers, put up good stats, and a big reason why Hartford is successful. But then on the defensive side, it's Shirk, who had a +3 on the week, went 2-0, and played very well for them. But as you look at some of the other players for forward, you see a couple of guys there from the Wild. Go Hawks, again, still playing incredibly well. 8 goals, 7 assists, a +13 on the week. He is just a tremendous offensive player. Rockpile, who was part of the trade that was made this week, had a great week for the Wild. And Beast Forever, of course, doing incredibly well for them, for the Wild as well. So good stats there. You see San Jose has a player at number 2, Axkull, who with 8 goals on the week and a 3-0 record. Again, the number 2 ranked player for forwards. And on defense, you see Boss Ross, who went 3-0 for the Admirals. Couple of other players we haven't mentioned before. John Bond for the Reign, the 3rd ranked for defense with a +14 and a 3-0 record this week. The Reign getting some good play out of him, and certainly one guy from your team, DeGraves, Rose JC, a +9, went 3-0 this week, and Monsolo, who also went 3-0 and a +9. So we always talk about the offensive players, DeGraves, but you got a couple of guys who are in the top 10 ranked in defensemen for week 2 in the power rankings, and that's as much of a reason why your team is successful as anything else.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, those two together are pretty deadly. Unfortunately, this week we kind of got to split them up a little bit, but we got a lot of good defense on our team. Like I said, our top 2 lines of defense, I don't think we've given up over 2 or 3 goals a game. So we're pretty stout in that department. So that was part of what I did, was get some more power force in the offensive zone, and that's what I did. And so I'm looking forward to this week. With that being said, yeah, I mean, we got a good defensive squad. There's a lot of good defenders, a lot more defenders, I feel like, in the league this year that are pretty solid. I know I didn't go up against a couple first liners, let's say in some games this week, and even the second line defensemen, they're pretty solid. They're good. So, I mean, I'm hoping that there's a lot more defensemen coming up and into the league and making that department strong, because it's fun to see that these guys are successful at 3-0 and having a lot of success with plus minuses and doing well for their teams, even if their team's not points like the Stars weren't for a while.
Yeah, and you know what? People always say that the plus minus category is not a valuable category to look at, and I just kind of disagree with it. And yeah, it can happen where you just got off the power play or the penalty kill, so it you weren't even in the play yet. But that's where you really see if the players are always in close games or not. If you have a guy that's like completely blown out, where his records are okay, let's say they're 11-12 or whatever at the end of the season, something close to that, but they're a -25, they're getting blown out in their games. So sure, they may win some, but they're getting blown out. So I actually look at that a lot when I'm looking at certain players, just to see how they cope and how they deal with every game situation, the overall. So I like that stat, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, if I see a player with a 2-4 record, going after week 2, and they have a -4 plus minus, I'm thinking that they're losing one game, one goal. I mean, that's the thought process in my head. So I mean, they're not getting blown out of the water like you're saying, advanced. That's that I look into as well. people are like, oh, he doesn't put any points. Shoot. I mean, I know for me, I went, 1-0-2 the first week of 1 point. I had like a plus or a -3, plus minus. I look.
Close games.
It just happened.
Yeah. I wanted to quickly talk also, because we always look at who's hot on the defense and forwards, but I'm looking at the who's not for the forwards, and I'm kind of surprised by some of the people. And I think that really goes to talk about what team they're on. Jasta dude's at the bottom there, 0-3, and everyone knows he's a decent player. You know what I mean? Giroux's on there; he's a good player. Razor Edge, which on the Kudas last season,
right,
probably had 60 or 80 points, something like that, and now he's on the who's not. And now you can say that everyone, you can have a bad week or two, but there's certain players are just very good players. So when you see stuff like that, you kind of have to look at it and go, man, especially with Razor Edge, because you look at his team, there's 1, 2, 3, there's 4 different guys just on this list. That's not a good thing you want to see.
Hey, there's two more guys I want to talk about on the Who's Hot list, and one of them is on defense, and it's Cattywampus, who was 4H Pestilence. If you've been in the league for a while, you went 3-0 this week, +5 on lefty, and arguably could have been Hershey's best defenseman, and I kind of feel like in my mind, I put a little more value on that because, again, while there might be a good group of defensemen in the game now, and maybe more than we've seen in past seasons, I think it's kind of tough to trade one of your best defensemen unless you feel like you're really getting some good value back. Is that something that you think about, the Graves, when you're trading a defenseman who may be one of your best guys? Do you expect some really good value back on that?
Absolutely. I'm not going to name any names, but I had someone ask me for Rose, JC, and Mahone in one deal, and I almost shit my pants because I thought they were kidding. Like, my top 2 defensemen on my team, and you're going to ask for him. I mean, he goes, "What do you want for the team?" Right. I mean, that's what I told him. I mean, they're a big deal to your roster. Having that kind of connection and that partner on the other side, and you're clicking like that, you don't want. You're going to pay a big time fee for that. I mean, it's almost like what do you want to do to give me this player? Like, what do I want? So it's hard to give up those talented defensemen and that connection and that chemistry with their D partners. It's almost as if it won't happen.
Yeah, well, defenses.
So don't ask me.
Makes a big difference in this game, man. I'll tell you, teams that don't really put the money in for defense, you'll see it later on in the season because they'll be trading some guys, they'll be doing this or that, trying to just build up for it. But they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle, man. You really need defensemen. If you can't have guys that can get it out, like move it out of your own zone, you're kind of shit out of luck there. So that's in my mind, that's a huge position. That's my second and third most important position on the ice. Typically, that's how I look at it.
I mean, yeah, I think my number 1 would be center spot.
Center, always center.
So, and I think centers in the league these days are kind of hard to come by. I think as a center, you're a 5-star player. So, it's kind of like a basketball player. All right, is he athletic? Can he forecheck? Can he handle the puck? Can he pass the puck? Mm-hmm. How is he? Can he actually finish? Can he put it in the net? Those are like 5 things that you look for in defense. Stuff like that. So I think center is probably one of the most important positions to look for. And having a center there for passing for an average defender can make a defender look really good.
Yeah, well, that's what they do. I want a center that sits back on the breakout and is that first option for the defenseman to give it to, because it just kind of opens things up. I want a center that plays proper defense. Points for goals.
If your center's there, breakout. I mean, your center has 4 options, almost 5 options instead of trying to pass
Two.
a winger into a winger that has one option.
And the winger's so far up already at this point that now he's getting pinched off by the defense, and so that kind of. I've talked about this before on past shows.
A good center can make defenders look good as well. Like, and that
absolutely.
Which goes down to a defender making a goalie look well as well. You know, I mean, Jay Dizzle on my team, he has 4 shutouts, and I think in all of his shutouts, we've given up less than double-digit shots. For a goalie, that's heaven.
Yep.
Your chances of getting a shutout of 10 or less shots are pretty high chances. I mean, you got a big chance. Some of them were like shots, 6 shots. I think one of them was like 8 shots. I mean, the dude's a beast. Yeah, don't get me wrong, but it all works itself down. We make each other look good. We play as a team. That's
absolutely. Yep, that's all part of the team concept. Hey, there's one more player I want to talk about, and obviously the Graves can talk about him directly, and that is Tyler Lokey. You know, we've known him as a goaltender until this season, and you know, again, I don't care how well liked you are as a player at a position when you change positions, especially going from goaltender to a forward. You're going to get a lot of people going, what? So I think that kind of happened with Tyler, and you know, I think he's taking it kind of personal, and he just went 3-0 this past week with 5 goals, 4 assists, +9, and is winding up quickly becoming a solid part of your team right now. And you know, talk a little bit about what you saw and why you felt it was worth taking a shot on somebody who doesn't have a record of being a forward.
Well, I play a lot with Lokey, so I knew he was a goalie. I played with him in a stupid Facebook league. I'll never play that league again. But I played with him and iPass, and they were both my wingers, and the way that they both played together was just like we were just like the perfect trio. And you know, I started playing with Crazy Man and stuff like that, and I was like, man, I'm getting Lokey. I mean, he's good. He signed up. He's good to go. You know, he's good. I know he is. Plays my style of play, and he's one of the few that can. And so I just went after him. I mean, he saw everyone was chirping in the shout box, and I was kind of telling him what others were saying, and he was like, he pretty much said, "Oh, hell no." So I'm going to show him what's up, and that's what he did. So that's why he flashes the Texas logo in the shout box. But he can't do that for a couple of days. So, you know, it is what it is. But he's a great player. He's real smart. He's pretty solid with the puck. And, you know, I got to give some to get some. And I took my chances on Tyler Lokey, and so far so good.
Hey, let's move on to talking about goaltenders before we get ready to close out here. And, you know, you've got a guy in Leafs who went 3-0 this week. 92.3 save percentage, 0.62 goals against. And he was the number 3 goaltender behind Dr. Nasty at number 2, and Rick Stoneman. And both of those guys went 6-0 this week. And we'll talk for a second about Stoneman a little bit later. He's one of my favorite goaltenders. I absolutely. Smitten with him as a goaltender, so I'm a big fan of his. And you know, you've got Leafs. I'm sorry, that's the Wild. That's not Texas. The Wild have Leafs and Jones, and that's a nice 1-2 combination in net. You've got Jay Dizzle, who went 4-1 this week, 2.21 goals against. NJ's very own, who you hadn't seen in the numbers really in stats, but this past week, 4-0, 1.5 goals against, 87% save percentage. He's another guy who's been around for a while and is incredibly solid. And Big Super Kid also had a nice week at 4-1, 2.2 goals against, and again, making that Thunderbirds team even better with his ability to continue to play incredibly well game after game in net. So, you know, a lot of good goaltenders in this top 10 listing. And I feel like goaltending is relatively deep this season. I see a lot of good goaltenders on a lot of teams, and I'm learning about some guys that I didn't know anything about who are also really good goaltenders who are maybe in the AHL for the first time, maybe the second time, but are proving to be worth their value up here in this league. And I think goaltending is in pretty good shape league wide.
Yeah, it's important to have a happy goaltender. You know, I mean, I actually take the input on what goalies have to say. Sometimes, you know, we lose a game and you know it's 5-2, or you know, I want to know why. What's going on? You know, if I miss the game, I know I see it there, but you know, I only see certain angles, you know, on replays and on streams and stuff. So I want to know what's going on, and their input is important. So there's a lot of these top goalies that, you know, I know NJ's very own pretty well, Dr. Nasty. He's like his name, Nasty. You know, there's a lot of good goalies in the league this season. I'm starting to realize that there's a lot of goalies on this who's hot list that aren't even on here. You know, I mean, there's a lot. Both of my goalies, you know, I feel like should be on this list, but not. But you know, it is what it is. There's so many good goalies. There's so many good forwards. There's so many good defenders that it's almost you might as well just make a top 100 list of each. You know, I mean, let's expand a little bit and compare everybody. So there's so many good players. I think that I know for sure the names and stuff. I don't even recognize some of them, and so that's a good sign for the league and the talent of level that there is out here.
Yeah, I just want to quickly talk about he's ranked 9th, but TJ, you know,
yeah, TJ's solid.
It speaks wonders when you're on a not so great team like Utica and you can still make this list. That really shows that maybe you're not being carried by your team and you really are not. I don't want to say you're carrying the team, but you're definitely doing your part. So just a little call out to that guy. You know, good job on that. It's hard to do with a team that may be struggling in front of you. The Graves, just saying what you were talking about. I like to do that too, actually, where if I'm in a game and either we're down by 1 or even if we're up by 1, but we're just kind of like struggling a bit, I'll ask the defense or I'll ask the goalies, you know, what do you see? What do you think maybe we should change? Or the defense open more, this or that? Because their perspective is way different from a center or from any kind of forward where you're thinking of cycling down, you're trying to see where things go, but they see things completely different. So I like to ask that as well.
Yeah, they see it from a completely different side of the ice. You're looking for 1 or 2 players when he can see all 5 of us on the ice.
Exactly.
And see the way one's moving or one's passing. And, you know, we don't see that he turns it over so much. Like whatever the case may be, he sees that. I mean, he's like, okay, pressing the big analog black button on the middle of my controller, coming back.
Yeah.
I know Sibs does that quite often.
Yeah.
But, you know, yeah, it's important to kind of have their input and have – I mean, if the goalie's getting 1-T'd all the time, I know if I was playing goaltender, I would be pissed off.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, no one wants to get 1-T'd all the time. Play the pass, not the shot. You know, it's just like common sense. All you defenders, play the pass, not the shot. Save your goalie a little extra attack.
If you have to, put your dick on the ice. Make it happen.
Yeah. I cover up as much as possible. Now, Siege likes to call me a pussy for not pushing it out, but I like to cover up as much as possible. I don't take any chances in that. I'm a very conservative goaltender.
Yeah, you are, but you don't move so much. You know, I rather you just stand tight more than like sliding all across the ice.
Well, I tell you what, I mean that's part and parcel to playing the position for me. I've got to not move. I have to stay still and just just play the position as as quietly as possible. And that's something I've learned a lot from watching a lot of stuff from John LOL and his channel. It's just a smart way to play, and I try and do that whenever possible because you move around, you slide around a lot in net, you're going to get beaten so often. And
for sure.
you know, watch Rick Stoneman. Watch how he plays, and typically he does not take a lot of chances. He's very quiet in net, and he plays a very smart game. And I think that typically lends to him being successful. Now I'm going to show the people something that happened this past week. Unfortunately, it happened to Rick Stoneman.
Directing that one to Scott.
An opportunity.
Gains the zone.
A goal
Shoots one. Great glove grab.
For the Wolves, where their goaltender shot it all the way down the ice.
One perfect goalie remains now.
Gets a goal on Rick that way, and it was an unfortunate play for him. And those things happen. And everyone heard about it this week, so I just showed everybody the video from that goal. And an unfortunate thing that happened to a goaltender, but typically,
I love it.
Typically, Rick is one of those guys who, you know, if you want to watch how to play this game and in this position, and you know, the right way, I think you watch what he does, and you absolutely can say, yeah, no, he's somebody to be emulated as far as how to play the position right.
There is nothing like a goalie goal. Oh, it just everyone hears about it. And everyone's
what
like,
we feel.
Yeah, that's the best.
Well, it's unfortunate that it happens everyone. So look, it's happened to me too. I'll put that video up as well for people to look at. It's happened to me a number of times, and it's never fun. You feel like total garbage when it does happen to you.
Man, and the worst is when it's like about 5 minutes left in the third. It's a 1-1 game. You know,
right?
I mean, you know how it feels. We kind of did it to you this last week. You know, I mean.
Oh well, yeah. I should have shown that one as well. That was a
yeah. You should have. Oh, did you? Yeah, you should show it. I mean,
so Sibs, let me ask you this: Sibs, do you touch your right joystick a lot when you're playing, or do you keep your hand right off it?
The right joystick, I do touch that a lot. It's it tends to, well, no, actually I don't. I don't touch the right joystick a lot, and that's one of the things I've come to learn this season is that you know, making those big slides with the right stick is not the way to go. And I try and stay within the crease. I try and stay midway in the crease. Again, that's something, you know, I've learned from watching a lot of videos. I don't come out. I used to come out like I was playing the position for real. Like when I used to play goal, you were at the top of the crease and you tried to stay within that arch. But it doesn't work that way with NHL 18. You've got to stay mid-crease. You can't stay top of the crease. You can't stay top of the crease. You can't stay on the goal line. You've got to stay midway. And I think if you do that, then you're going to be more successful. And something that, you know, a lot of guys who play this position a lot better than I do have learned over the last few months and have been able to implement and teach the rest of us. So, you know, I thank a lot of those guys on that Discord chat that John LOL started up, and a bunch of us goaltenders talking there, and it's been pretty helpful. So I'd like to see more of that community stuff go on, because I think a lot of us could help each other out, and if we want to not be selfish, and maybe have some good things that we could do to help each other out. But
why can't we all just get really good and have really good games instead of 10 more?
I will tell you why. Because it only works.
There's nothing more that grieves me than a 10-1. It makes me like cringe. Like how can we even see that?
Listen, it only works with goalies. Goalies are weird dudes. They always have been. They're like a different breed of person.
I can't argue with that. I think he's absolutely right.
Yeah, they're the type of people that just seem to be okay with sharing their little secrets when everyone else like, oh, shit, are you crazy?
Because
this is how I score.
We're a lot more mature, I think, too.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah,
except for, you know, and that's not including guys like Dreamy and Domi. Those two guys. I don't know if I'd actually, you know,
use that word.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, let's.
Do you think there should be a goal score limit to where like player stats aren't getting like boosted?
A slaughter rule.
Yeah.
That's, you know, that we saw some of that in week 1 happening, and certainly there was some talk about that. I think your team, right, Advanced.
Oh yeah.
Beat up on someone 14-3. Was that? Was
the
that
Checkers, I believe.
The Checkers,
or Utica. Yeah. Utica or the Checkers, yeah.
I think it was the Checkers.
I mean, come on, like 12 points, like 11 points. That's just like
Yeah, but the game does
Giants
kind of
or
work
what?
around that. They have the power ranking where it stops counting after 4 goals. So they kind of do cap out at least the power ranking wise and what it kind of gives you. But at the same time, you can't just limit the amount of goals because if your goalie's playing shit, you're gonna get worked out. That's what happens.
Yeah. Hey, let's move past this. I want to get to the last thing that we got to do here before we get out. We've got Unabuga, who is here with us now, and he's going to come with us on the show every week. And his job is to pose a poll question to you folks in the community for the week, and see what you think about the topic that we're going to discuss. And Una, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So you wanted to talk a little bit about San Jose and what's going on with that team. Tell us a little bit about the poll that you're going to post today, and why you feel it's a fun topic to talk about here.
All right, so I mean, as the season has started out, NHL media's got some great guys writing up there, and the polls have been great up there, and I think that us down in the AHL need that too. So I figure I'm gonna start posing these questions weekly. Sibs, you and I talked about this, and and yeah. So essentially, I've been looking at what I wanted to talk about this week, and you guys very briefly touched on it last week, and I think that it's gonna be something that as a community as a whole we can look at and really discuss. So I'm going to take San Jose Barracuda. Essentially, obviously they're doing well. They got 72.2 win percent going on right now with an unreal like group of guys, right? San Jose, known that about that team for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my question, and statistically speaking, they have the most OT wins, as far as I can see. They're tied with Laval, or sorry, second most. And they're second in their division. Are these guys pulling this? Are they lucky, or are they truly, scoring, at clutch times, or are they just lucky? And that's kind of the question that I've been trying to, or that I think that can be discussed. They got 15 goal difference, which, you're a positive team. You would think a little bit more of a goal difference. You look at the Moose, 45. You look at the Wild, 51. Even the Admirals, 32. A lot of these top teams, just statistically speaking, point percent to goal difference, is just, these guys are extremely low for such a high, ranked team, I would argue. And then even, you look at their time on attack difference, they're -8 minutes. Are these guys getting worked, or are they not? Shot difference, they're only up by 1 shot, and we know this year with NHL 18, shots determine the wins. That's like one of the biggest things. If you can get shots on net, you're gonna score goals. Goalies are making those errors, as you said. It's happening this year.
Right.
So, I'm gonna ask you guys what you think. Feel free to, respectfully say, yes, no, whatever the case may be. Yeah, like that's pretty much what I'm thinking here.
All right, so you're going to have that poll posted shortly, and you'll be able to see that. Below the shout box where you start seeing all the threads, that'll be up near the top of the user submitted threads. I'll make sure it's up there with a media tag, right, probably right above the preview that we put up there. So look for that coming up shortly, and Una's going to have that up there for you folks to vote on. We'll talk about the results next week, and then get everyone's thought on that, and where San Jose is going, and then we'll also bring you the new poll for next week. So thanks, Una. Appreciate it, bud.
Thank you.
All right, guys, any last thoughts? DeGraves, we'll start with you. Want to give Advance last word, because His ego needs it this week.
No last word. Just,
Nothing
it's
from
going to
you.
be a good week. It's going to be a good week and a challenging teams, and I know it'll be interesting a week to see, and obviously the Eastern Atlantic Division will be a fun division to kind of see the teams go up and down, and so just good luck, have fun.
Advanced.
Quick question here: how long was the record last season? I think it was like the all-time record of most losses in a streak. Was it 30 something? Was that what it was?
Was it last season? I wasn't deep into last season, so I couldn't tell you. I wasn't playing, so I don't
So
know.
last season, I think it was somewhere close to that. So
Okay.
I'm just kind of looking forward to see if the Checkers or Providence or even the Heat can really take that record on and see if they're just gonna shit the bed for a whole nother season. See if they go 0-9. That's always fun to watch.
Yeah, I try to make
Good luck, guys.
the Checkers and the Heat better teams by giving them some of my players, but
Don't do that.
it is what it is.
I like watching people crumble.
All right,
Yeah,
guys. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you guys next week.
All right,
Have a good one.
All right, take it easy. That is Advanced and DeGraves and Una, who joined us late to talk about the poll. We'll be back next week to talk more about what happened in week number 3. Very key week in the league, typically. And we'll talk about it next week. Hopefully, we'll get 6-9 back and Maddie as well. You've been watching AHLPSN this week. I'm T-Sib saying so long, and we'll talk to you next week.